Hey, y'all, it's Brandon Adams, the host of DawgNation Daily, and it's my turn this week to be able to answer the Gimme 5 questions here at DawgNation.com, so I'm happy to be able to do that, and we're featuring one question per week on video. I'll encourage you to go back and rewatch what Connor Riley and Jeff Sintel and Mike Griffith have done in the past, and there is, in particular, a question that I wanted to highlight here for a moment, and my reason for highlighting this question is not so much so that it can be answered, but in the hopes that it will keep being asked. Let me show you this on the screen here for a moment. And this is the question I wanted to mention. So Big Dog 2442, Brad Weiser on Twitter says, other college football programs celebrate their great players and coaches with statues. He says we, meaning Georgia, have nothing other than the Vince Dooley statue that he jokingly says you need a GPS device to be able to find it on the absolute edge of campus. He says, I mean nothing for Herschel Walker or David Pollock or Frank Sinkwich or anybody else. I think Brad's asking a really good question, and it's a question that I've asked in the past there as well. Why doesn't Georgia have more statues of its all-time greats, and why aren't those statues featured in a more prominent place? If you go to the Butts-Mehre Heritage Hall on the south end of campus there at UGA, you can, off to the left, see the statue of Vince Dooley. It's a really cool one. He's being carried by his former players. It's kind of one of those iconic scenes that you remember from the Dooley era, his career being taken off the field at the end of the Sugar Bowl in the 1980 National Championship season. But it is a long way away from Sanford Stadium and a long way away from kind of the epicenter of Georgia football, especially on game days. Seems a little bit weird. We also know at the time there was some infighting at the university level, at the administration level between Vince Dooley and former President Michael Adams, and some of those feuds, as public as they became, that probably has something to do with why the Dooley statue is located where it is. And so even if you say, well, okay, I guess that's fine, that's why that is, how come there aren't more things to signify the greatness of a Herschel Walker, or as the commenter said about David Pollock, or another Heisman Trophy winner like Frank Sinkwich, or a guy like Charlie Trippi, who would still be alive to appreciate this, 100 years old, the former number one overall draft pick after the 1946 season there at UGA. How come there isn't more done to honor them? I would add Larry Munson into a discussion like that there as well. When I've asked this question in the past, especially as it relates to the guy that's probably the most deserving of this, Herschel Walker, the answer I've gotten back sometimes from key decision makers in the past is, well, if you do this for Herschel, you'd have to do this for some of the names that you just mentioned, and you're talking about, more statues that have to be made. But I've always responded back to that by saying, okay, fine, build them a statue too. I would actually say that my tolerance for statues is really pretty high. I would love to see more in Athens. When I travel to other places around the SEC, even though I'm not a fan of those programs, I do enjoy seeing their monuments to their great past. At a place like Alabama and Tuscaloosa, all the coaches that have won national championships have their own statue. That means Nick Saban's got one, Bear Bryant's got one, but even a guy like Wallace Wade has one. And that's a guy that might be lost to history if not for the statue that stands of him right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. At Florida, they've got their Heisman Trophy winners who have statues. Guys like Tim Tebow and Danny Werfel and even Steve Spurrier going back to the 1960s. I'm no fan of any of those quarterbacks, as you know, but do I think it's kind of cool that Florida honors them the way that it does? I think it's kind of cool, and I think it's kind of appropriate, and I do wish Georgia would do more of that. So if we ever want this to happen, Georgia using more of its space to honor more of its all-time greats, the only way it's probably going to occur is for more people to keep asking this question. So, Brad, thank you for doing that today as a part of our Gimme 5, and hopefully more people will ask it again in the very near future.